Hey, I'm Natalie Potts, and this is the Natalie Potts podcast. If you want to talk about your business, your life, your health, and more, then you are in the right place. We do it all with humour, love, and inspiration to help you create a life you love. So, let's dive in. Charlotte, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I'm excited for this conversation and where it's going to take us.
Me too.
I'm always quite formal, but I'm going to start off by saying, share all about yourself and what you do.
Oh, thanks, my lovely. So, hello, everybody. I'm Charlotte Wibberley, and I am a launch and funnels and business strategist. So, which all sounds very boring and dull, but basically, I help people to, well, really like scale their businesses from six figures to sort of multi-six figures and beyond using different launch tactics and audience growth methodologies, and automating their businesses. So, really, I'm a glorified tech person.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie me.
And where's that come from? What was why you got into this?
So I left my employed role when I had my son back in 2012, around flexible working, or should I say lack thereof. And I started a business then that was kind of more, I suppose, using the skills that I had in the corporate world, which was project management, PA skills in financial services. So I ran my VA business for a couple of years, but was getting pulled into more kind of tech funnels, setting up landing pages, that sort of stuff for my clients. And so decided to kind of go off and create my own business doing that. So at the time that included sort of like online business management for entrepreneurs and the tech skills that went with that. And then alongside that, and also having a baby, or two babies by then, I was building an association to sort of, I suppose, set industry standards for virtual assistants as well. So in doing that, I kind of touched every kind of area of course creation, building memberships, creating and selling offers, all the tech setup around that. And it became really apparent that this was something that like online business owners really needed help with, was the strategy around that, but also then somebody that was on the ground that could understand that sort of bigger picture, rather than seeing things in isolation, and help them to actually implement it as well. So it's kind of just grown legs and happened quite naturally, really.
Yeah, and that resonates highly with me in terms of leaving the corporate world last year, did nearly 20 years there, and just seeing the opportunity for small businesses. And I guess sometimes it's easy to take for granted what you know, and you don't have the awareness of the fact that your knowledge isn't common knowledge. And I learned so much in that space. And I always loved that. I always said very early on, I started leading people when I was about, like 18, 19. And it's not easy to do all the time. It's not natural to everybody to want to do it either. But I learned so much very quickly in that role. And you grow up pretty quickly, you mature. And then the skill set is given me. I've now recognised like this isn't a given that everybody knows, and they need to know this stuff. And I know you and I have both done a lot on in terms of personal growth, investment, or personal development and business development, but also the business strategy side. And I think, if I'm honest, sometimes I just think it's still a bit of a taboo, because it's like it's seen as boring and things, but it's like it's the stuff that people don't want but they need, and it's trying to bring up, I say it like it's not the sexy stuff, but it's the sexy stuff you got to do. And I'm trying to get almost more bored in my business at the minute, which sounds crazy, but it's the brilliant basics that are going to get me results when I do them over and over again and consistent. And this is what people struggle on.
It's so interesting you say that about like being boring. We as part of DI, which we're both in this year together, the retreat that we had last year in Malta, we had a guest speaker whose name's now totally escaped me. But anyway, he was talking, he's a really successful guy, runs lots of online businesses. And he was talking about the fact that business should be boring. And the whole reason that business should be boring is because you are doing the same thing over and over again. And the reason you're doing that is because it's working. If business is constantly exciting, it's the fact that, and we can be this way as entrepreneurs, like chasing that shiny syndrome of going, oh, well, I'll try that. Oh, well, that maybe didn't work as well. I'll try that thing. It's really easy to be kind of flitty and to follow, that new idea. Whereas if you've got a system or an offer or, a marketing ecosystem that's working, it should be boring, because you should just keep doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah. I mean, people are inquiring about your work and what you do and how they can can help them. What are maybe their biggest free challenges that you can really help them on?
So I think I tend to get people come to me when they have, I guess it's like leaning back on what you were saying just a minute ago. People generally get into business to do the thing that they want to do for their clients. So whether that's, helping them scale businesses, whether that's, cake baking, whatever it is that they've got into business to do, that's their passion, or that's what they're good at. And they don't tend to think about, or they don't necessarily understand the scale of the marketing that has to go into a business, or how much time goes into nurturing your customers through their customer journey. So I tend to get the people that are they've had that success, sometimes like that accidental success, quite often on their own, but sometimes with a small team as well. And what they're really looking for is a way to sort of, I suppose, expand their team, or scale their results that they're getting without them having to do way more in their businesses. Yeah. So I get people that have launched a membership, let's say, and that's doing really, really well, but to go to the next level, they actually really need to up their visibility. So they're looking at how they can really nail their social media plan, or we'll look at perhaps doing some Facebook ad campaigns or something around it, or they've got that signature program that's working really, really well for them, but they want to talk about how they can put in like a low ticket offer, or equally like a mastermind or a high ticket VIP to really, set that sort of opportunity ladder up for their clients. So for me, I tend to meet people when they're at that sort of ready to scale point, and they need the people and I suppose like the processes in place to make sure that they've got that consistent pipeline of people coming through.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you'll either see people that hold back their potential, or people that are the opposite and just go all in, and then they really, really struggle, and then it both can lead to businesses folding in the first year, and then if not the 3-year part. And I see it all the time. And again, it goes back to, I say quite a lot about just, you've got to be sustainable. And I think when I was in the corporate space through COVID, which was challenging, but I definitely saw a shift in a corporate business where it went, and everything was spoken about when we talk about 3 to 5 year planning is out the window. We are focusing on the now. We can actually only talk about this week, maybe at the moment in the business. And we had to adapt so quickly. And that's again what I loved, is that you just move at pace, but you could do it in a trusted environment as well. And it was with people experts that often you do something and it would tend to be right, even though nobody knew anything around COVID. It wasn't as though you were kind of doing it on your own, feeling like you were winging it. But we could only focus on maybe the next day, and then the month, and then it got to, right, let's focus on the next quarter as such. And I think the problem is, again, we can get then stuck in that being a norm, the same as and I remember saying to people like, I can't believe this mask stuff. And then I was like, you're going to be saying again, when we take the masks off, oh, it just feels so unnatural. I said, because you're just used to something. It's a conscious thing. We've just created it into your subconscious. And the same with business, we just get stuck in what feels comfortable and what we know, and it's safe and secure. And I feel that with businesses, that I think, yes, great, look at the next year and work to that, but you've got to be longer term now, I think, in terms of 3 to 5 years, because again, there's so much demand, there's higher expectations of everybody in business. It's competitive. I don't take the attitude, and I come from a coaching background, but I don't sit there and say it's saturated, because I think there's always opportunity. You've just got to take a different spin on it, but you've got to be doing something different. I think the different thing at the moment is thinking longer term, and then having the ability to know what you've got to do right now as well. Yeah, absolutely. And that whole doing something different, standing out from the crowd, think about, as you were saying, you were in corporate during the pandemic. So the pandemic was mental for me, because it was mental for everyone. But, I had the 2 kids at home and homeschooling, which, has solidified the fact that I could never, ever be a teacher. Hellish, too much wine drunk. But equally, in terms of the business, my business scaled so quickly. I think I 4 times my business during that year, because suddenly the entire world was moving from an offline way of marketing or connecting with their clients. Everybody wanted to do online. And what we found was that people were wanting to do the same things as well. So like, I feel like during the pandemic, all I did was build like evergreen webinar funnels. Everyone was like, oh, I want an evergreen webinar funnel. Okay, right, great. Let's talk about that. But coming out of the pandemic now, people are still trying to do those same things, like those cookie cutter approaches of going, I just want to, market this thing, so I'm going to do it this particular way that my coach has told me. And that's not working anymore either, because
what people are finding is, well, first of all, I think people have got Zoom fatigue because they're like,
yeah,
just give me a person face to face. But equally, they're getting wise to those sort of launch and funnel tactics that people have used to really grow and like sell to people. So part of what I am trying to do is get people to say, well, you know, how can you be more personal in what you do? So although you need the automations, and although you want to make sure that you're doing all this stuff and marketing your things in the easiest possible way, how are you still making sure that it's unique and personal to you? So people aren't, you know, kind of just feeling like, ugh, this again.
And you're spot on. And that's where it goes back to, like you said earlier, about visibility. And it's why I do strategy and mindset. I'm massively invested in personal growth, love it. I think a couple of years ago I challenged myself to read a book every week. So I kind of did that in 2 ways. I did 2 physical books a month and then 2 audibles, and I learned so much that year in that way. But you've got to take all the knowledge, experience, and you've got to take your own spin on it. And I was talking about this with someone else in the mastermind, actually, that we can learn everything, we can invest big in people, but there's a risk when people invest what they determine, you know, would put as a lot of money, that then they put everything onto that person. And then we'll find, you know, we're not always going to be with everybody. Not all the relationships with our clients are going to be great. And that's, being honest, business. And when some people then throw it back on you and it's, well, that hasn't worked, you need to take responsibility and accountability for your own business. Never would I turn around and say, well, you as mentor told me to do that, hasn't worked. I'd turn around and say, I need help on this. This is working, this isn't working. Where do I go from there? And then build on that. But it's very easy to go into victim mode in business as well when things aren't working, opposed to test attitude, consistency, and then going, that works, do more of it. And people, again, it's because they want the shiny object thing and then the quick wins. And I get the quick wins, but you've got to slow it down, speed up too.
Yeah, they want that magic pill, right? That's like, oh, this is definitely going to work. And the reality is that something that's worked for somebody else, even if you follow it to a T, it's just not guaranteed to give you results, because different business, different market, different product. It's just, you know, you got to find exactly that, do the testing and find what works for you. And I know it's a bit of like one of those terms where everyone rolls their eyes, but you know, especially when I'm talking with my clients about launches, I'll often get people that are like, oh, well, I had this horrible failed launch. And I'm like, well, it wasn't a failure. You just didn't meet your goal. And what did you learn from it?
Yeah.
And you know, that whole victim mode you're talking about is like, oh, well, it didn't work. And like, well, what can you learn from it?
I sometimes call my belief a bit deluded, because I literally am like that person that's just like, yeah, I'm going to smash it. And all the time I'll keep going and any get defeated. I bounce back quite quickly. And again, I learned resilience a lot in business, in corporate world, because you had things thrown at you, especially working in London areas the whole time. And I was like, am I an octopus? I was like, don't think so, but I feel like I need to be today. There's just the volume that will come up with you. So I learned resilience. And I think with that, you've got to, it's like I'm doing a launch at the minute and it's my first big one. And, you know, the audience isn't probably been the audience that's got me to where I am now, but I can't negate that success. I grew rapidly last year and now I'm like, there's bits that are working, there's bits that's not. So I'm always constantly thinking about reflecting on, right, how can I make that better? What's it telling me? What's the next stage? And it's like, I'm going to do this. There's areas where I'm thinking, okay, that's been harder than I thought. That's been easier than I thought. I've learned this and I've learned that. And then again, like next time I know there's certain things I'll stick at and do differently. But I love what you said earlier about this is important of investing in people and mentors and everything, because people see things differently than you do. And I'm very focused on the people I work with. I've got a few mentors. They all bring something different to the table for me. They'll all challenge me appropriately too and take no BS, which I need. But they'll also help me to see the gaps that I just can't see because you're in it and you can't see those day in, day out. And you will get those weeks where it feels like you don't have time for anything else but work. But it's those times when you need that person to bounce off and go, I just can't see anything. I'm just like a fog. And what do you see? And it's stuff actually sometimes that you know deep down, and you do know it. You just need somebody to say, just keep going, or it's cool, or yeah, but you're doing the right things. Remember, it's this, this, and this. It's to be heard and listened to as well.
I think it's really hard to have like perspective over your own business.
Yeah.
Because we're masters of our own domain and we can decide what we want to do. You know, like, for example, I can help my clients achieve great results. When it comes to my business, I want to achieve great results. I want to do and stick to my plans. And, you know, I'm one of those people that puts all the things they need to do, including their meetings, in their calendar. Well, the problem is, if I'm not feeling like doing it, I'll move it. And this is where, you know, you're like, well, I can part that till next week. It doesn't matter. And I know that's crucial to me moving forward with something, but I can't prioritize it on my own. So I totally agree. When you have then a team of mentors or different people you can call on to either hold you accountable, to hold you accountable and to challenge you to go, either what you're saying or thinking is BS, or actually you're doing way better than you think. I mean, it just, it's a no-brainer for your business. You need it.
Yeah. And one of mine a few months was, it's not necessarily always shiny object for me, but it's very much, I just love different things in business and I love learning all of that. And I can get easily then distracted on just, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll be a part of that. Yeah, I want to give that a go. And then I'm like, oh, I've got so much going on. Then,
I've overcommitted, damn.
Yeah. And I don't get overwhelmed and stressed by it, but I do think like, what have you done, girl? So that's again where I need people to say like, you're spreading yourself thin. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And they're like, so what are you going to do? And I was like, oh, they're like, what do you need to let go of? And then in that space, we'll just work through. And I did it with a coach last year. He's like, write down now exactly what you need to let go of. And I was like, and it's at that time, it was this podcast, ironically. It was just that I just haven't got the time to do it for the minute. And that was key. And then I think I noticed when I started the business, I'm very good at delegation. And I realized that on a business strategy course that we did recently, that the M module, I was like, I love this because it's all about delegation. But that wasn't like at work. I didn't realize how well I did it in business at work and that's how I got results. Because I feel like I'd know what to do and tell people how to do it. And then I'd just delegate and also trust people with that and then pull it in and move forward with the business. But I don't have that when I'm building my own business. You've got to build that infrastructure and that takes time too. And that's where you're saying about the team part. And if you're struggling at the minute, you're thinking, well, I don't know what to do. Find somebody who you can bounce it off with, who can give you that advice. And then work out what, it's like I said, these £10 tasks. And I delegated off quite quickly in the business. I think the first month in or so, I did get a VA because I do the copy of all my social media. I can't be bothered to do it all, like the graphics and then roll it out on socials. I just can't be bothered with it. It's not my gig. She can do it 10 times quicker than me. She enjoys it. And it's taken a big pressure off from that perspective. But if I didn't think that way or have somebody to help me on, even like, well, what are the £10 tasks? I don't know. And where do I trust myself in? That's £1,000 task and that's £10. But that can really help you, is just taking the time and just writing down what do you need to let go of that's not a priority aligned to what you're working on, even these quarter, 3 months, however you position it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming from a virtual assistant background, and before that, like a project manager and PA in London, like outsourcing, delegation, or getting my clients to outsource and delegate is like in my blood. I'm always trying to go to people, what, exactly as you're saying, what do you need to do? What do you really hate doing? What can we do better for you? And I think when I started this business and, it became like a no-brainer that immediately I would have a team. And I could not live without my team. They are there so that I can step out and that they can step in and look after my clients. And there's that seamless support, but they also are not entirely that support network I have to bounce ideas off of, but they do. And I can, ask things of them or get them to challenge me. And it's, for me, I think as a business, ultimately you need to be able to, or a business owner, you need to be able to sit there and go, how can I serve that business best? And how does the business serve me best? And that's about doing the stuff that you enjoy doing, that lights you up, that makes you happy. But it's equally about going, well, taking that social media thing, you don't like doing it. Are you going to do the best job with it? Or is there somebody else that's going to do it cheaper, better? And it's going to take it off of your plate. So, I'm with all of my clients, even the ones that do that. No, I don't want a team. I don't need to outsource. I can do it myself. I'm like, really? Do you not want to think about this? And once they take that initial step and they've let go of some of the bits in their business, it's liberating.
It is. And it's a vulnerability. And that's always appealing to people, when you can be vulnerable and this is hard, or I don't get it. And I always speak quite openly. I've invested in masterminds where I'm definitely I'm probably not where other people are. But I know also my drive and ambition, and I'll have the conversation with the person I invest in, say like, you know, is this right, or is it too far at my comfort, like too far for me? And then I'll go and make a decision from there. Because they'll have seen things, everything that you won't have seen yet, and they'll say yes or no. And I often trust people's judgment in positions where I want to be. So we'll talk that through, and you've got to just put yourself in a place where it does feel really uncomfortable, and you are open and honest and say like, it's crap when it's crap, and just say, I'm really struggling with this in a minute. And actually, like I said earlier, it might be the same thing as nobody can give you advice on what to do. They just say, yeah, it is. And that's tough to hear. But I remember when I left the corporate space, it wasn't an easy period of transition. And I said to my dad at the time, because he always really helps me map things out, and he was just like, this will be your gift. And he said, but it's just going to be a bit shit for a while. And there's comfort even in that, you know, it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be next week I bounce back. And even I talk about resilience, but it's going to be a bit crap for a while. But maybe the less is more, and focus on the right things, and just keep your head down. And again, that boredom part, and just get on with it and keep going with that belief that you got. Yeah.
And like you say, like the path line to success as a business owner is never linear, is it? It's up, it's down, it's all around, it's back, it's forward.
It's interesting you share that, because actually one of my friends pulled me on that. He says, everything you say is, it's interesting. And I was like, right. I was like, I'll focus on that. Thanks, Dan. But my success was linear when I started out in corporate. I shot up through the ranks, and then that again doesn't help you, because then when stuff did start to, the higher I got, the tougher it got. And I didn't fit the pieces in the business, their business anymore. And I had to see that through therapy, that the pieces didn't really fit anymore, because otherwise I took a lot on, it's me. And actually it was like, I'm just, or it's them as a business. And it was victim mode. I was like, I'm not aligned, and that's okay. But what am I now going to do? But it was very linear. And then after a while it didn't, and it was tough. And I was like, okay. And then you doubt yourself, and is it good enough, and things like that. So I'd invite people that if you have got that and it's going really well, just be aware that will change, but also, and that's okay, but also then how you manage yourself within that.
I think if you look at the really successful people that we know in all of our industries, you know, the people that you really aspire to be like, or the success that you want, there are none of them that will sit there and go, every launch I've done has been brilliant, every single offer I've put out has flown, I've never had any negative feedback. Each of them's had those sort of crappy bits of running a business to then make them get to where they are today. It's always those setbacks, I think, that like steel you to be able to know which way to go. So like, you know, even thinking with my team, I've always had a team, but my team is in the way it is now, which is carefully structured into, we have a project manager, I have deliverers, I have a social media person. And the reason that came about was that I went through major burnout after the pandemic, and I had to step out of the business, and that time away from the business, not able to do anything, made me go, right, I need someone in there that can do this. And it was a blessing, and I've just never let them go. So, you know, but that was a properly shitty situation that actually has led to me being able to do things in a business that I actually wouldn't have been able to achieve if that hadn't happened. Could have done without the burnout, but you know, you get what I'm saying.
And you learn, don't you? And there is certain things you have to, and again, we say these things, but you got to bring meaning to them. When we say like be kind, but actually what does that be kind mean? And that's why, again, I said mentors help. Somebody said to me the other day, just, you've got a lot going on. And I was like, yeah, I know. And they said, just don't forget to be kind to you. Because I always talk about striving for the next thing, but not forgetting to realize what you have right now, because it could all be gone, or just the fact that if life changed, like, you've got to be happy in the moment.
So important. If you're always looking too far ahead and not focusing on what you're doing right now, that's equally not a great place to be.
And I see that because, again, like, I learned in corporate that I got to certain positions where it looked amazing and everybody looked to an outsider successful, and I hated it. And I was like, but this is what I've worked for, and I hate it. And I remember being told once, I passed an interview for a position, and then it was then the position that I didn't pass the actual sign-off piece of directors, and that was the tough part. But I sat there when they said, oh, you passed, and I was like, and I remember it crystal clear, and I was like, I should be elated. And I was like, there's something in that. I can't face it in a minute, but there's something in that I've just got a numbness to it, because this is what I've worked for years. And now I'm a bit like, nothing actually feels any different. They've just told me I've got a banging pay rise. I'll get brilliant bonuses. And I'm like, yeah. And is that another bag?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, I don't know if you ever find this, but like, I feel like there's so much going on where people, like, in this world of social media, and everything's like bared out for us all the time. There's all that comparisonitis, but also not just like they're doing better, but this is what success should look like.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a really long time to figure out what my success looks like. And I try and say to my mentees, like, everybody's version of success is different. There isn't a figure you can put on that, or a way of working that you can put on that. And I guess that ties into going, what is our version of success, and how do we know when we've met it? I think it's really, I find that the hardest bit, because often, mine was always working 3 days a week. I work 4 days a week, but being able to pick my kids up from school, I do that. And my husband's always like, what are you moaning about? You get what you want. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's not good enough. I want more, I want more, I want more. And it's, I think that's where I guess maybe those mentors and things can also ground you, going, this is what you wanted. You've achieved success.
Well, you won't give you a space to do that to yourself, will you? Because it's always like, I haven't got time for that. And that's exactly, I start all of the relationships I have with clients. The consultation part at the start is focusing on questions like that, like, what's the impossible goal? What does success really mean to you on your terms? Because it's exactly like that example I shared. It looks successful, but I didn't feel it, and it wasn't my happiness. And you've got to ask these questions. It sounds so simple, because you don't actually really ask them, or you put your, again, association on somebody else, and that's not going to help you. And it's okay. Like my version of success to me is I left the corporate world because I wanted to work less hours, and I wanted more time freedom, like most people want, but in simplicity forms. I want to get up and go for like a day, a run, or I want to go to a gym whenever I want in a day, if I want to, around things. And I don't want to have to go through that with anybody. Like I would have been corporate, going, oh, I'm just going to do this. I'll be in at this time today. I want to live my life the way I want to, and enjoy the moments and experiences of working hard and loving it, but also having more time to spend with my family and my loved ones. That's really what I want to do it. And you've got to always come back to those points. And that's why I loved having a coach last year. I had a personal performance coach, and he just always challenged me, stuff like that. He goes, like, but Nat, like, the reason you left was for lifestyle. And he goes, you're not doing it in a minute. And I was like, yeah, I know. And that was when it was, you have those conversations, like, it's just tough at the minute. And you have to have that person draw you to that, because you won't do it yourself.
Yeah. But also, I think it's really difficult when you're caught up in it to see that you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Just constantly going, this client needs to be served, or this needs to be done, or this needs to be done. I had this realization about 3 months ago, where I found that I was I was doing the dropping and picking the kids up, perfect, tick. But when I get home, they'd go like and do their homework, or be building Lego, or whatever they were doing. And I was like, well, just a minute, I'm doing this. Just a minute, I'm doing this. And I found that I was completely like, I was picking them up, but then I was neglecting the time that I wanted to spend with them, because it was like, oh, well, this client just needs this. So I've tried to make a real effort, not perfect all the time, at going, on the days that I do pick them up and they're home at 3:30, crazy early in the day, I'm going to spend time doing something with them, because that time's fleeting as well. It's going to be gone before I know it. It won't be cool anymore.
Yeah, and you see it all the time. You see it everywhere. I see it in restaurants. People, if you took today and just almost shut up and just watch stuff and saw people, half would be immersed in their phones if you're in a restaurant. This morning I saw a girl walking to school with her mum, and her mum was just on the phone, and I was like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to, and again, I don't want to be what society deems me to be or expects. And that was another thing I said when I left corporate and handed my notice in. I was like, what you want for me isn't what I want for myself. They're two different things. I just don't want this life. And you can't, you're sitting here debating with me, just stay. I said, I don't want to stay for that. And that's not actually taking me into consideration in this. And those are the things that we should be working on with people, is really listening and seeking to understand what they really want.
Yeah. And beyond a financial number as well, right. Because I'm not saying, obviously we all need money to live.
Yeah.
We want to be paid fairly for what we do, but equally that's not where the happiness is. No. It's like what you actually want from your life. So your example is like a perfect like one, right, that they could have offered you any kind of money to stay, but it would not have sold what you wanted, which was the lifestyle.
No. So who's been your biggest inspiration?
Oh my goodness. So I find I've been inspired over 10 years in business by so many people. So I could name like your Carrie Greens, Lisa Johnson. Obviously, I'm second year into her mastermind now. But I guess I'm most inspired usually by like other people I see around me in my family that have like been entrepreneurial and done it and have, created success for themselves, but also on their own terms. So for me, it's always about looking at the people that have managed, not necessarily to do, the private yachts or do all that stuff. Although Lisa, that's brilliant. But for me, it's more about the people that have achieved that freedom to do what they want to do outside of business. So I guess, I've got friends that have done, set up their own businesses that are achieving that. And I try and take inspiration from my husband as well, although I'd never admit it to him. But he's set up his own business and equally is an equal parent to me. So does, 50% or more of the parenting. And, he really inspires me with his tenacity and success. But yeah, it's been one hell of a ride, really.
What's one thing that you would have wished you'd have known sooner rather than later when starting out?
I think probably that getting yourself visible and connecting and marketing is one of the most important things you can do. I spent so long with my first business building a website, coming up with my packages, working out which payment processor I was going to use, and literally thought that people would just find me. And I wish that I had known sooner that what I really needed to do was just get on socials and start talking and start building that audience and building my email list up. So, it's one of the most important things you can do, particularly with your email list, is, getting those people that are interested in you and your messaging and your story, and connecting with them and starting to take them on that journey with you. I started that far too late and relied on recommendations, which is great to a point, but at some point that dries up. So definitely get that email list.
I think that's absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Yeah, that resonates highly with me as well. What is my final question to you is, what is one thing you're worrying about right now that you won't be worrying about in 20 years' time?
Okay, so I think for me, that's probably my work-life balance when it comes to my kids. So although they were the true reason for me starting my business, that I could be more flexible around them, I am really conscious, as I said, that, as my business grows, although I have the support in place, I still, I'm still busy, I'm still working every day. Whereas, not even 20 years now. I mean, my son's 10. In 5 years, he's not going to give a damn about me. So, I won't have those same time pressures, but also like that constant guilt of going, what's the priority here? And obviously the priority is always my children, but there are things that you physically have to do as a business owner as well. So I think I constantly, I'm an anxious person anyway, but I constantly worry about, am I spending enough time with them? Do they get enough from me? Am I showing them inspiration about how they can run their own businesses and have success and freedom? Whole mishmash going on in there. But in 20 years, hopefully I'll be sipping cocktails in the Caribbean, looking back at my success and feeling good.
Bless you. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. So how can people connect with you?
Best place to find me is Instagram. So I'm Launch and Funnel Expert on Instagram. Come on over, say hello, and be lovely to connect.
Yeah, don't just follow. Don't be a lurker. Engage.
Don't be a lurker. No, don't be lurkers.
I do. Every person that adds me on things, I'm like, hello, how are you? Tell me more about yourself. And all you're doing is just talking business, right? That's it. And you never know where it can go. And I say this to my clients, like, you popped up in my world and it started with a hello and just a conversation. That's it. It's Absolutely. Really simple. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I've taken lots away from that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for listening. Are you looking to grow your business and tired of not seeing consistent results? Head to the show notes right now and check out my quiz to discover the one thing holding you back from growing your business with ease. Business should really not be complicated. I'll see you on the next episode.